In college, she promoted nightclubs in New York City. Today, she accompanies U.S. senators into closed-door sessions in foreign embassies, in countries many will never see. She'll tell you a 2-year-old named Comfort is responsible for it all.
I'm Morgan DeNicola. I run my family foundation, the DeNicola Family Foundation. We do local and global humanitarian work, but I am also the vice chair of an NGO called the Humpty Dumpty Institute, and we're doing congressional delegations with members of Congress, but also the Senate, and we do all kinds of cultural programs around the world.
How would you define phenomenal?
I think phenomenal is anybody who has a willingness to continue to grow and gets excited about it, gets excited about change. I think that that makes you phenomenal.
The foundation's organizing principle is caring in action, not just as an emotion. Where do you feel that most concretely is showing up in your work right now? Not historically, but this week even.
This week, the fun thing that I got to do over the weekend, I was able to go to the Tonys, and I'm working with an incredible group that brought the revitalization of Cats to life on Broadway, and that meant a lot to me. This goes to show you the importance of the networking. I was lucky enough to meet a photographer in Brooklyn, New York. She was taking pictures of social media influencers, and I saw that I was following one of them, and I was like, oh my God, I love that person. And in the process of getting to know this photographer, I became really good friends with her. She's like, would you like me to introduce you to her? And I said, absolutely. And then through the course of getting to know her, on the side of her doing all of her social media influencing, she's a producer on Broadway. And she said, I don't know if you have anything to do with Broadway or have any interest, but we're bringing Cats back to life. And I immediately jumped, and I remember going to see it with my family, and I was like, oh my God, I loved Cats as a kid. She goes, well, it's a little different. I didn't realize at first how important this play was going to be. And the more I spoke with people, the more I realized how important and epic and pivotal. They like to use the word revolutionary for Broadway, and it really is revolutionary for Broadway. I decided to take a chance, and I asked advice of a few different people and got a lot of really great input. But I ended up just going with my gut and saying, this could be such an important moment that I would love to be a part of and help happen. And so I went home and spoke with my wife. I was like, are you okay with this? And she goes, hey, if you're excited about it, I'm excited about it. Let's do it. I know a lot of people in the producing world don't get as emotionally attached to something, but this was a very emotional thing to be attached to because it's so important to the LGBTQ plus community. Having a first ever show that was really for them and about them. And I cry, I laugh, I love seeing everybody else that gets emotionally involved with it. And that goes through with all of my work. Any program that I do, I focus on feeling with the people that I'm with and really truly being a part of the experience and whatever their journey is. I'm a very emotional person. I get deeply attached to people. I get deeply attached to places because I think if you're not feeling what you're doing, you're missing a part of the world and your ability to connect with everyone around you.
Where does the Jellicoe Ball go from here?
Oh my God, it has 9 Tony nominations. My mind was blown. We ended up winning 3 Tony Awards, seeing everybody, even at the Tonys, losing their mind when we won. The support of the community was incredible. I'm hoping people keep going to New York and seeing it, and that it is a place that a lot of younger people can go and feel good. So I'm hoping this takes off and eventually it even gets to start traveling around because I think it's an important pivotal time for it to exist. Definitely for the first attempt, I have some glitter in my eyes. Yeah.
To understand why Morgan does all of this the way she does it, We have to go back to a trip she almost didn't take.
I had no idea. I think that a lot of people, when we go and do global travel to a place we've never been before, we have a lot of preconceived notions. So I thought to myself, what is Africa like? And you think of all the movies you've seen and you don't quite know. And I also didn't quite know why I was there aside from taking notes of what was going on. And to be able to go first into these cities that are very much like our cities, robust, a lot going on. You think to yourself, well, this isn't how I envisioned Africa. It's very much like anywhere in the United States. And then driving to the orphanage that we were going to visit, you saw this drastic change as you left the cities and you start driving through villages and different people and culture. It really started to kind of seep into my skin and my soul, and I realized that it was so beautiful to see different places. And then I show up at the orphanage, which was very unique because it's run by Buddhist monks. These kids that have these tragic stories of their parents dying, or they could also have HIV or AIDS and their struggles, but they're in this orphanage that is so beautiful in the sense that it was such an incredible education that they were getting there. And the hope was that once they get this very diverse education, they were learning multiple languages, computer sciences, how to cook, how to meditate, martial arts, all kinds of things. And then their goal was once they graduate, they go back to their villages and continue to educate the people around them. It was a very fascinating concept to see. It's not like they were hoping these kids would get adopted, or they wanted to just make sure they had the education to go back to wherever it is they're from and to go back there stronger and to make their villages stronger. And I absolutely loved it. And in the emotional moments of being like, these children have been through so much, it must be so devastating to see them finding joy out playing soccer or with their friends or finding joy in learning a new language. It makes you reflect on yourself and what you feel on your day to day and your struggles, and it lets you zoom out and see the world a little differently. And seeing how local government and foreign government can work together to protect these children, you then get a taste of that dance and how governments work together and how they talk, especially if their cultures are different. I flew back to the United States and I sat down with my parents and I said, I can no longer be in marketing. There's so much more that I need to be doing, and I need to have a positive impact on the world around me and just be contributing more. And I was just so lucky that my parents heard me. And I had left for a while to kind of figure out what that meant, what I was going to be contributing to the world. And in the process of me leaving, my dad was getting all these phone calls and text messages asking where I went and where I was. And so they decided to create our family foundation. We need to talk. And my parents were at the table, and I thought I was in trouble, which is really funny. You're in your 30s and you're still like scared of your parents. Am I in trouble? What did I do? And they said, we know that you want to help the world and we know you want to help people. And they said, I really think that we need to make a formal family foundation. So that became an anxiety. And I thought again to myself, like, I can't do that. I can't represent an entire family. I know how I feel about things. And my parents were just so encouraging and saying that they thought that I would be the perfect person to represent the family because of how passionate I was, that I was scared and went back home and was digesting it and the idea of it. And again, that little voice in me was like, this is where you're supposed to be. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And so I think it only took me a day, and I said, you know, let's do it, but how? And my dad is just so encouraging, and he's like, we're gonna figure it out. And he goes, so you better start learning.
Morgan said yes, and then she started learning what she was actually good at, which turned out to be something she didn't have a name for yet.
And I think that a lot of people, and this is where I found it surprising, they're just people that have normal conversations, that can laugh, that can have serious conversations, that aren't aggressive, and they really do listen to one another. They can be friends, they can be colleagues that have wonderful dialects with one another, talking about kids, dogs, summer plans. I would say 99% of the time, it's very respectful conversations.
You've talked about depression, anxiety, panic attacks, and borderline personality disorder. And I love the fact that you've stopped calling those things obstacles in your life. But when did you start calling them something else?
It wasn't until I started my journey in philanthropy that I realized they weren't obstacles, they were oddly gifts. But when you're able to kind of zoom out and meet so many different people with so many different struggles, you realize things like anxiety and depression are everywhere. And a lot of people are dealing with these things. I was lucky enough to be able to go to therapy where they were able to teach me tools, overcoming severe panic attacks, not being able to breathe, breaking out in hives, making myself physically sick, how to do breathing exercises and really mentally push myself through those moments. And you're always dealing with it. And learning these tools helped me start relating more and more to other people's struggles and sharing those tools that have worked for me and having more empathy and compassion for what other people were going through. And I think that it ended up being a superpower for me to be able to connect with more and more people and to utilize that empathy in what I was doing with philanthropy. With borderline personality disorder, you're very reactive. To be able to learn the tactics that are necessary to zoom out, that became very helpful in my ability to work with people that drastically differed from me. And now I'm able to have these intense conversation without being reactive and without losing myself in thought and just being aware of what's presently going on and what everybody might be feeling in that situation. You go from thinking that those things are curses in a sense to realizing that they can be used as gifts in your way of interacting with the world and the people around you.
And between the Family Foundation and the Humpty Dumpty Institute, there are both some significant mental health initiatives.
Yes, we are currently working on a program that will be helpful to first responders, and hopefully that will travel with us to different places because we know that there are a lot of mental health issues, not only in philanthropy and charity work, but any service to give them the tools that are necessary to live healthier lives and to really be able to be the best versions of themselves is the one of the most important things that we can be doing, and also shining a spotlight on the struggles that a lot of people that are in service of others go through every single day.
Her wife has a rule for the bad days. That's it. 6 words. Drop straight to it, Morgan.
You have to list 3 buts. She says buts. So if I'm saying this bad thing happened, she'll go but. She'll hold up a finger and I'll say, but this happened, this good thing, but this good thing, but this good thing. She reminds me to remember gratitude in the smallest things. I'll say, but it's raining. And for me, good luck happens with rain. I love the rain. So it's remembering the very small things. She brings me back to earth and reminds me to be grateful for whatever those 3 things are in that day.
I just recently had a guest on and something similar, and she's like, I'm alive.
If that is your go-to in a bad situation, your brain will start to hardwire itself to immediately start pulling those things out. And it definitely makes anything that you're facing a lot easier to swallow and to deal with.
Which is how she arrived at the things she says now to every room she walks into.
What you need to do is change one person's experience with the world, and then you've changed the world for that one person. It was actually that first trip to Africa. There was one little girl there as I was walking around the orphanage and interacting with all the kids. There was a girl, her name was Comfort, and she was 2 years old. And I was looking at her and they said, she hasn't smiled since she's been here. I didn't even think. I just picked her up in my arms and I had to hold her. I noticed she was staring at my hair and I was like, oh my God, she's never seen blonde hair. I took my hair out of the ponytail and I rubbed it on her face and let her play with it. And this giant smile went across her face. I felt a fire light inside of me. And I had this moment where she's smiling. Two people who are not even talking to each other are having such an intense moment where she changed my life and I changed her experience in one moment without words. Since that moment 10 years ago, my life has been lived completely different. And I realized that it's in those small moments with another person that you do change the world. That girl changed my life without saying anything. If we pay attention to the opportunities that are presented hourly to us to really have those moments, the world would start to alter drastically for each of us. I think it's just a matter of having that initial moment and realizing that it's awareness, it's self-awareness. The more we become self-aware of the things that we're doing, we alter our behaviors. It takes time, just like the gratitude. These are things that we need to continue to practice. But if we can, in the morning, just say, I want to have one good moment with one person and just start very, very small. And it doesn't have to be these grand gestures or these huge things. They can be the slightest action can change the course of somebody's day because you don't know the day that they're having. Kindness becomes contagious. And the more kind of a person you are, people like to be around that. They want to be around that. They learn from that. And it feels good. It feels good for you too. Fear is good. I would say fear is good. Don't get too comfortable. Being comfortable, you don't succeed, you don't push yourself. And that's why fear is good. I was afraid of everything at a very young age. Everything. Interacting with people, public speaking. I would have never done this. I'm terrified of planes, which is ironic because I'm constantly on them. And just for a while, I just fed my fear and didn't contribute and wasn't the best version of myself. And the moment I started to find ways of overcoming those fears were the moments that I started to find success and strength.
Well, that's why this podcast exists. I also wouldn't have necessarily said yes to this, and I did it because of the fact that it scared me. So, and now here we go, 65 people later, there we go.
Yeah.
Right?
That's amazing.
Midweek, I asked her what was keeping her going.
I'm excited. I'm trying to continue to brainstorm with like-minded women on this program, which I always get very excited about, to be in rooms with very strong, powerful women that are also just trying to make things better for somebody else. That's what constantly keeps me going and excited. You wouldn't think a nightclub promoter would end up in philanthropy, global travel, Broadway, the United Nations, sometimes Congress.
Before I let you go, you said to me, you don't change the world, you change it for one person, and the way that one person experiences that. I keep thinking about that because that's also why this show exists.
That girl changed my life without saying anything.
Morgan, thank you again for trusting me with your story today. The way you move through the world with so much intention and so much heart, you are without question phenomenal. And I'm so glad you're here. If this episode means something to you, please share it. And if you haven't already, a like, a follow, or 5-star review helps more people find our community, and it genuinely means the world to me. I'd love to hear from you. There's a voicemail link at the top of the show notes. Tell me what landed, what you're sitting with, and what question you wished I'd asked. I listen to every single one. Until next time, I'm Amy Boyle, and this is the Speaking of Phenomenal podcast.